No one can block you from having this relationship with Gurudev. When he was physically present, sometimes you would be blocked from going in. But my experience with him was that if I was blocked physically, someone would close the door, not let me in, close the blinds in my face so that I couldn't look into the window where Gurudev was, and I would be blocked out, and it was very painful and very hurtful, and it would break my heart in a million pieces when it would happen. And I couldn't understand why they wouldn't let me in. I was really heartbroken. I would go away and I would chant my Gayatri somewhere privately and be lamenting. I had that mamatas with him, that kind of connection. You know, back in the early days, we could just go and see Gurudev. No one blocked us. We lived with him. We were family. It's like living with your father. You want to have access to your father. But anyway, Gurudev was so clever. No one could cheat him. So I would go and, do my prayers. And then I decided to get up and go and pay my obeisances at the closed door inside the house where nobody was, so no one would see me. And I was bowing down and I was doing my pranam to Gurudev. And then while I was down on the ground, the door opened and Gurudev sat up. Everyone was in the room and he sat up and he looked at me and he saw me on the ground, bowing down, looking at him like I was just, he chuckled. He had this way of chuckling whenever I would walk into a room. He would chuckle. I made him laugh. I guess I'm an eater of mangoes. Maybe he's just like in his head thinking, oh, an eater of mangoes. Something funny going on in his head, but so sweet and so personable. But he would chuckle and his whole belly would go up and down and he would laugh. And then the door just closed. He didn't say anything. Nobody came in and nobody left. The door just opened because my head was at the floor and Gurudev wanted to see, who is this outside my door? So no one can block you from your relationship with Gurudev. Somebody closes a door, another one opens. Our relationship with Gurudev is not based on being physically present. If you have faith in him, or even if you just saw him for 1 second, then we have that eternal connection to a maiden of Sri Radhe. Whether we know it or not, whether we want it or not, whether we like it or not, that's the truth. That is the mercy of a pure saint, pure Vaishnava like Gurudev and Srila Prabhupada and our entire Guru Parampara. This separation mood is very powerful for us and it should be developed. The qualification for bhakti is this separation mood, this yearning. And that yearning, when we sing like this is why Gurudev wanted me to sing. It wasn't for any reason other than that it's instant connect to the feeling of lamentation and yearning to connect. And that mood very easily can bring those tears that Gurudev said are worth more than thousands of lakhs harinams. When Gurudev gave me initiation, he told me, I want you to chant one pure name a day. So he gave me this benediction because he knew that there would be times in my life when I became a mother, for example, that I wouldn't be able to chant 16 rounds a day or 64 rounds a day or anything. So he gave me some benediction. He said, chant one pure name a day. So what does this mean? It means to keep connected with your holy practices no matter what, every day to touch base with that holy practice. No matter how busy you are, it takes 7 minutes to chant one round. Everybody can do it. There's no excuses. If you love Krishna, If you want to see Krishna with your eyes, if you love Gurudev, pick up your beads, chant 1 round every day. Don't let it go. Hare Krishna. So this is our lifeline. And Gayatri mantra gives us the opportunity of awakening to our eternal identity. So in order to awaken our eternal identity, we need those tears to come to wash the dirtiness of our selfish hearts. So this separation mood, it just has so much power to cleanse and break open even the hardest of hearts, the stone-like hearts, the stone walls that we build around our egos to protect our egos and try to stay alive in this world and keep the ego alive, but the ego dies with your body. The ego is not who you are. The ego is not who I am. So we have to give it up, and we have to come empty before Gurudev and let him awaken in us our natural love that wants to move through us and express through us in its own unique way. And Gurudev said there should be no restriction with this. If this mood of love is developing and cleaning the heart, then this yearning is sure to bring you what you're asking for, because 50% action begets 50% mercy. The two have to be there. We can't expect the mercy if we don't make the effort. There has to be some effort. But Gurudev told me that Bhakti can come in one moment with one tear. It doesn't have to look a fixed way. It just requires one moment of genuine, sincere, prayerful yearning, begging, humility, for that to descend into the heart and for our consciousness to awaken. And I really believe that it's that simple. I think we make it more complicated than it actually is. So while I was in India, living in Gurudev's mutt, I was a big raver. I was in London going to all the clubs and parties and raves that would go on for 3 days. And, I was just really into dancing. I love to dance and sing. Gurudev's right. I do. I want to live my whole reality in a dance. Music to me is kirtan. For me, it's an opportunity to connect to Krishna and to imagine what it would be like to dance for Krishna. And how would I dance if he was there? How would I like to use my body in some way to please him and to glorify him? And it's a very innocent and very humbling experience. And I came to Gurudev with my little cassette player that I still have. We used to record on cassette players back then. So I had my little black box, as he called it. And everywhere Gurudev would go, I would turn this cassette player on and record everything he was saying, especially if it was a darshan. And he said to me, don't record with the black box, record everything with your heart. And I said, well, I'm recording with my heart, but I'm recording with the cassette in case I ever forget. So he stole my cassette player one time from me. He had it under his pillow. And on these cassettes, I had rave techno music, being in the Dham with my Gurudev, feeling all these feelings, listening to my favorite music, just connecting with Krishna. I had recorded over all of my cassette tapes. And my last day, it was my last darshan before I had to go up to Kashmir to see my grandfather. I was super sad to be leaving Gurudev. And I came with my little black box, and it was my last cassette that I had. But this cassette, I had spent all night worrying about, because it had my favorite music on it. It was my favorite mixed dance tape. And I had recorded over every tape I had. This was my last one. I was not going to let go of it. But I was going for my last darshan with Gurudev, and I didn't know if I'd ever see him again because I thought he was an old man. I said, "Oh, Gurudev, what if I don't see you again? I'm so scared I won't see you again." He said, "Why won't you see me again?" I said, "You're old and anything could happen. I'm so scared." And he said, "Oh, don't worry. I will always be with you, and I promise you that you will see me again." Anyway, he gave me back my black box, and I came the next morning all night deliberating. I couldn't sleep. Should I record over the tape, or do I not record over the tape? Because once that music's gone, it's gone forever. But this is Gurudev, and any moment with Gurudev is like an eternal moment. So I got my black box out. I went for my last darshan. I hit record, and Gurudev spoke to me. And then I left by train and by plane to go to Jammu Kashmir to see my grandfather. And I had to leave Gurudev, and I was very sad. And about 10 days into my trip, I got out the cassette player and I turned on that last darshan tape. And you won't believe what's on it. It is Gurudev talking over my techno music. Both are there. So it's an impossibility. It's impossible for this to have happened. It was another one of the miracles. And Gurudev showed me by this one thing, he gave me so much faith in him, that he was listening to me. He was closer to me than my own soul. He told me, "I'm closer to you than your own soul. I am inside of you. When you sing with your heart, I will hear you." This is why Gurudev wanted me to sing, so that I could feel these feelings in my heart. And I'm really grateful and happy to have this gift of song and music in me. And I am dedicated to serving Gurudev, and I'm dedicated to serving Sri Radha in any way that I can, because Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu is embodying Radharani's love for the Lord. And that love is uncontrollable, it is untamable, it is unfathomable, it is worrying. And all of the people around Mahaprabhu were very concerned for his safety, because he would throw his body into the water to drown, unawares of his external consciousness at all, completely unaware of what his body was doing. And it was up to the maidservants of Sri Radhe, who descended into Mahaprabhu's Leela, to guide him and protect him while Krishna got to experience what it feels like to love him. He's so sweet and so crooked and so innocent and so charming and beautiful. He doesn't know what it feels like to love him. So he wanted to know, well, what does it feel like to love me? Why do they all behave like this when they're around me? I want to know what that feels like. So as Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, here's Krishna experiencing her moods for the first time ever, because he's not a Manjari. He doesn't know what Madanakya Mahabhav feels like, because he's not a Manjari. Only Sri Radhe and the Manjaris experience that. So Krishna got to experience that as Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, and through Chaitanya Mahaprabhu's Leela, we as aspiring maidservants of Sri Radha get to see what her moods are when she's in separation from Krishna in the kingdom. And that is how we can think with our magical, creative minds. How might we wish to soothe her when she's in that state? How could we help her? What can we do to help this experience get better for her? How do we keep her safe? How do we soothe her spirit, her fiery spirit, which has lost all sense? She's completely immersed in divine madness. At those moments, that's where the Manjaris spring into action. And this is what we are meant to be wanting to do. with this mind, with this imagination, with our consciousness, with our awareness, with our prayerfulness, with our invocations, with our yearning spirit, that as we do these things, that consciousness will develop. We have to have faith that it will develop there within the kingdom. Gurudev has promised it. You know, Gurudev talks about how this Yugala Kishore manifests within the heart, and how this process really is given to us through Sri Rupa and Raghunath. So Sri Rupa and Raghunath are Rati Manjari and Rupa Manjari, who came from the spiritual world into this realm of human beings to again guide those who are truly sincere and want to enter into these mysteries of the goddess. In Vrindavan, there's just so many samadhis of these maidens who came to earth, and in their samadhis, they are eternally in meditation, in service to Sri Radha inside of their tombs. Eternally. They never leave. They're always there. That means that when we go there, either physically or with our minds, at the time of our chanting, that grace and that mercy that they have in their meditation is made available to us just by our bowing to them and our asking them for their blessing and for entrance into these mysteries of divine love. And Chaitanya Mahaprabhu is the doorway for us, because that's how we learn what our eternal service is for Sri Radha. That's where we get to use our imaginations and think. In the spiritual world, because everything is wish fulfilling, Chintamani, it's limitless. Your imagination, the ways in which you can serve are limitless. You can have millions of harmony voices. You can have limitless colors in the sky shooting arrows down upon everybody's hearts that give everyone higher bliss when it hits the heart. It's limitless what we can imagine, how we can serve their environment and offer our imagination upon the altar of our thinking power. We're all created equal. We're all brothers and sisters in front of God. We're all created the same. So what is in me is in you. What Gurudev gave to me, he gave to you. It's time that we have to die to these egos. I just truly believe that bhakti has nothing to do with what you're wearing or what your hairstyle is, or whether you were born in India, or whether you're a man or not, all of these things, you know. My last darshan with Gurudev was in Orlando, right before he passed away, and I knew he was leaving. I knew it. I could tell just from the way he was looking at me, the way he was talking with me, the things he was saying in class. So this one time, I had this very telepathic relationship with Srila Gurudev. I think lots of us did. It was profound. There was no separation. He could hear every thought that was inside of us, inside of my head. So it's not worth trying to hide anything from him. He told me once, when I told him that I had a problem with a drug taking, I was taking a lot of marijuana and smoking my beedies. So I told him, and he was so pleased that I told him, that I revealed to him what was going on with me, that I was honest with him. And he told me, this is what he said to me: when I first came to my Gurudev, I had a problem. And I came to my Gurudev and I told him what this problem was. He told me what that problem was, but I'm not going to repeat it because it was private to him. He said, I told Gurudev I have this problem. And Param Gurudev every day came and did this Reiki-like movement over Gurudev's heart and said, don't worry, I will remove it from you. So every day Param Gurudev was doing this to Gurudev until the problem went. And then Gurudev never had the problem again. And Gurudev told me, now that you've told me about your problem, every day I will do this to you until you have this, no more have this problem. So every day, Gurudev at some point in the day would come up and do this little Reiki movement over my heart, like he was removing something. And then, okay, so I came from the music industry. My history's a little weird. I grew up in London. I left home very young. I got a job very early working for pop stars like Whitney Houston and the Thompson Twins and Nick Hayward. That was like my first job at Arista Records. And then I became a booking agent and I worked with hundreds of extremely famous rock stars, and I traveled all over the world with them, and I got to hang out with them and go clubbing with them and party with them and go on their jets and their limos.
And how the mercy works, and look at it, how you're speaking now.
So, you know, it was like this. I basically had a lot of heavy metal and rock music that went into these two ears of mine. So when I came to Mathura, to Gurudev, I got a really bad fever. And I had two ears that were aching like pain to my core. I had green pus pouring out of both of my ears. I had to I had to put tissues in there to stop it from oozing. It was horrible. Just because, you know, you're in an ashram and you're surrounded and people are everywhere. And, you know, I was very ashamed and I was very unwell. And Gurudev was very worried about me. He said, oh, I'm very worried about you. You have to go see my doctor. So he sent me to his homeopath. And then a couple of days later, are you getting better? No, Gurudev, I don't feel well. So then he said, you have to go to hospital. So then I went to the hospital and I stayed there and they gave me antibiotics and it cleared up. And I came back and he said, are you okay now? I said, yes, Gurudev, thank you. He said, well, what went in had to come out. I had to get it out somehow. And so I understood that all of this poison that had gone into my ear, which was, now that I think about it, was actually a lot of devil worship. I didn't realize it at the time. But, you know, now that I think about the bands that I was working for, they sang a lot about the devil and about evil and about Satan and about hell. A lot of those bands were doing that, you know, but then many of them also weren't doing that I was working for, like Bon Jovi and Aerosmith, you know, they were lighter kind of rock. But the heavy metal thing was, you know, it was definitely in my ears big time. So he drew it out of me. And what's the reason why he did that? Because he had to pull out the poison so that the nectar could come in. Bhakti is the goal. It's got nothing to do with anything except for, in one moment, crying out for mercy and begging for entrance and allowing that to manifest at its own sweet time through that praying mentality. And that is the only qualification, and it's the only experience we should be chasing when we pick up our beads or when we sit to chant Gayatri, however that looks. Gurudev knew that I was so attached to the music. So when he put his voice over my techno music, after all of this, that he had cleaned out my ears, he'd cleaned out my heart, he'd given me everything that I needed to realize. And then he told me, I've given you everything that you need. Now go away and realize it. And I knew from that moment on that my life in separation from him was very long and very intense. I only got to see him, you know, once every few years when he came to whatever place I was living in. And, you know, and then there were lots of crowds. It was harder to get any time with Gurudev per se, but always he found a way to have a moment where he got to say something incredibly profound and sweet to me. And all of those experiences are very much etched on my heart. And I really want to share all of these things with you because they're just so supremely sweet and they just give us so much hope that no matter how much time we had with him, that this is truly possible for anyone. So one time, before my husband had met Gurudev. I had met my husband and I'd written to Gurudev that I was getting married, and he blessed me and said, okay, if he's qualified, then very good. And so I married my husband and we were living in Hawaii together. And my husband was a very powerful yogi who had been a sannyasi for many years, living in a Mayavadi yoga ashram in Massachusetts, under the guidance of a guru who goes by the name of Yogi Amrit Desai. My husband then met me after his guru fell down and had a big, shameful, big leave. And my husband's faith was shattered and his heart was broken. And then he met me and he told me, I said to him, well, you know, I really don't want to get involved with anybody unless I'm going to be married, you know. And he was a very noble person, my husband, like me, you know, we're very similar that way. We're very chaste, and we, you know, really wanted to have that pure connection. So we wanted to wait to be together until we were married. So we married. Then he got a terrible bout of vertigo where he could not stand up. He was so dizzy all over. His whole body was spinning and he couldn't move. He was terrified. And I just didn't know what to do. We'd literally just got married. I had no idea what to do. So I phoned Gurudev. And he was in India. I said, oh, Gurudev, my husband is having this terrible vertigo. He's so dizzy. I don't know what to do with him. Can you please help him? So Gurudev came on the phone to my husband and he said, what is going on? What kind of sadhana do you do? So my husband, Robin, said, I do pranayam and yoga, Gurudev. And Gurudev said, you must give it up immediately. This Kundalini activation, pranayam, is very dangerous. Give it up immediately and develop your pure love for Krishna. And then Gurudev told me, bring him to me. So I brought him to Badger, and when he met my husband, Gurudev, this was the second boy that Gurudev married me to, because Gurudev, he put his arm around my husband and he looked at me with a glint in his eye and he said, so do you like who I chose for you? So my Gurudev brought this man to my life to give me the protection that I need in this world, because this world is dark and scary for an innocent soul. And my husband gave me this shelter, this protection. He gave me his undying love, the shelter of a sacred marriage that is not based on anything other than respect and friendship and love for one another. And we've gone through this life 25 years married, and Gurudev told me, never divorce. You should never divorce. If you divorce, then men will only ever want to have sex from you. No one will ever love you like he loves you, so stay with your husband. And that's been the glue that kept us together through everything that we've been through in our life. This security has allowed me to blossom in my spiritual life that otherwise wouldn't have happened, because when you're a woman in this world and you're thrown about by the waves of men's lust for you, it can be very scary, and you can get into some bad situations. And I did, you know, in my life, I was placed in some very frightening situations in my life. And Gurudev, when I met him, he just knew all the pain that I'd been through. And that's why I was so eager to put my heart so fully to this path of bhakti yoga, because I probably needed a lot of therapy. I had a lot of trauma. I didn't know how to deal with it. And so drugs and dancing at raves was a way that I coped with the trauma that I was having, because I would take drugs and my heart would open, or my mind would open if I took something. So I realized, oh, that's who I really am. That's who I want to be. I want to feel this kind of joy, this kind of love, this kind of ecstasy, this kind of way of thinking about God and about creation. And so, you know, Gurudev stopped my husband's head from spinning in one moment. Vertigo stopped. My husband gave up his spiritual practices. And then he said, my husband said, you know, I'm never going to be a Hare Krishna devotee. You need to accept me as I am. And I'm like, listen, I'm not marrying a non-devotee. It's not going to happen. So let's just see what happens in the next 3 months. This is before we were married. So I began offering all of my prasadam to Gurudev. Every day I offered my prasad to Gurudev. And then, I think by week 3, he was wearing neck beads and he was chanting holy name on the beach.
Wow. Wow, beautiful.
So the power, Gurudev's power is limitless. If we put faith in him, he can create every miracle and bless us with everything we want in one moment. One glance is all it takes. Sometimes I used to sit in front of him and I would look at him and telepathically I would say, just give it to me. Give me the look. Just give it to me in one moment. I used to do this, you know. Gurudev was just so funny and so playful, and he was so charming and so clever how he developed that telepathic relationship with me. And on this last time that I saw him, I telepathically said to him, Gurudev, telepathically I'm saying, Gurudev, every time you look at me through the class that you're speaking, I'm going to write down the word that you spoke when you looked at me. And at the end of it, I want to see what you've said to me. And so through this whole 2-hour-long class that he gave, every time Gurudev looked in my eyes, I wrote down the word. And at the end of it was this unbelievably beautiful, sad, sorrowful, lamentful poem of how Gurudev was leaving us. He was preparing to die and I knew he was leaving. And he was giving me my final message in a cryptic, poetic, crooked, clever way that is just unfathomably beautiful. And it's just, that's the magical man that he was. That's the magic of Gurudev's mercy, and how I got to see his magic firsthand, and how, you know, the miracles that he could perform. All of these things that I shared with you, they're just miracles. And so Shamarani Didi, one time she told me that Gurudev has the power to create and destroy universes with his mind. Gurudev told me once, I can read everybody's faces. He said, I can see past, present, future of every life. Just so astounding to meet someone who is so genuine and so real and so authentic. And that's the barometer. That should be the barometer for us. The barometer of bhakti should be love and affection. Gurudev embodied that love and affection so perfectly. He taught me how to treat people with love and affection.
Should all be happy. My heart is blessings to you. Tomorrow in the morning I will go, but I will be with you all. You should a strong belief that I will never give up you. So you should think that I am always with you. No? I am always with you. And I am looking after what you are doing. You are doing good or bad, I am also looking. Because I am part of that Narayan. So always know this. And be very strong in Krishna consciousness. And what I told, you should be like that following all this Vedic culture and be happy forever eternally. And do bhajan very strongly, not giving up Hari bhajan, chanting and doing. My heartly blessings to you. Go Prema.
Srila Gurudeva!
Prabhupada ki jai.
Srila Prabhupada ki jai!